I remember going to the Sports Institute, and then we just told them that we're in Pumse, and then the counter lady was like, "What is that?"
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a laugh about it. We'll make sure that it'll get known later on.
Hi guys, it's Lenora Lowe and we are back here for the pursuit of progress. This is a show where I'm truly fascinated about how everyone goes through different transitions in their life. Very much like myself, I've gone through brand planning to radio announcer, content creator, and now a mom to be. As you're actually listening right now, I'm literally in we call this the semifinals mode of pregnancy. But any case, back to this podcast. This is all about how we bring guests in to talk about their challenges in life and how they've transitioned through each phase in their journey. So with that, I want to ask, are you guys ready to pop? Because this is the pursuit of progress. Now today, our guest is a history maker in Malaysian sports. She is a former national taekwondo athlete specializing in Pumse. We can ask her more about that in a bit. A discipline that blends precision, power, and artistry. She made headlines by winning Malaysia's first ever gold medal in the individual Pumse category at the 2017 SEA Games and went on to bring home medals at the ASEAN Games and international championships. But beyond the wins, this athlete, she has a journey about resilience, reinvention, and growth with a background in psychology. She has transitioned from elite sports to even corporate talks using mental toughness and discipline. So let's dive deep into her story. I'm so happy to introduce to you Sara Yap Kim Wen. Hello and welcome to the podcast, Sara.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Did you like the introduction?
Yes.
Did I touch every angle?
You did, yes.
Well, let's get straight into it. We'll talk first about your childhood. So starting first, if 6-year-old Sara could see you now, do you think she'll recognize the person you've become? Why and why not?
I think 6-year-old me wouldn't have known that I will come up to this stage right now, today. Because growing up, I think my family is a little bit more of an academic family. So doctors, lawyers, accountants, that sort of stuff. Very typical Chinese family. Sports and becoming a coach now was never really in the plans. It was always get good grades, go get your degree, go get your master's, do well, go to UK, and then just work.
The typical kind of
very typical
Asian
pathway. Yeah, very secure pathway. Mm-hmm. So me coming into sports was something unexpected for everybody. I think it was also tough to accept for a few people in my family because it's not something that, I mean, I would call myself a bit of a unicorn in the family.
Oh, okay.
I'm the only one who's...
I like that you said unicorn.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it a black sheep. It's just a unicorn. Yeah.
Color.
Yeah. So a bit of a unicorn in the family. I'm the only one who ventured out fully into sports and made sports and coaching as my career.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're like the pioneer. You could say like you're the pioneer unicorn in the family.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. What did they expect you to study or do when you were actually younger?
Hopefully get into something sciencey.
So you were in science stream lah, like the art stream and science stream.
Yeah, I think it just kind of flows in the family.
Okay.
Being educated, being academic, going to science. Psychology was also actually something that was suggested, and it was something that thankfully I was interested in as well. So I just took that route. Okay. Although it's like pseudoscience, but it's still research based.
Yeah.
It's still work with academics a little bit more, so they were okay with that in suggesting. Yeah,
we'll touch on that in a bit because that's quite a transition from, but not full transition, but the journey of adding psychology, which is sports psychology, I assume.
No, just general psychology.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started Taekwondo. Not many people, I don't know how many people know this, but it's to overcome being shy. Is that right?
That was right, but that was only when I was 6. Okay. So when I was 6, I was a very quiet kid. I had nothing to do, very inactive. So my dad thought that, why not put me into some sort of activity, and then, so happened my brother is in Taekwondo as well. So I thought, just might as well both of them go together. It's convenient.
Okay, sports came into the picture.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how I came into the picture. I had no interest in the sport.
Oh, at all?
No,
so it was
none.
just because you want, your parents, and also maybe did you even think that you were shy or anything like that when you were a kid?
I knew I was quiet.
Okay.
I even had trouble eating.
Eating?
Yes.
Can you
I would
elaborate?
munch, and then will not swallow for a few minutes. I had trouble eating. It was a
You
serious
did
problem.
You did that just so you don't talk to people.
No. It's just, I don't know. I think I wasn't very good at eating
Okay.
efficiently.
Okay. So did that change when sports came into the picture? It made you eat faster?
No. My uncle helped me with that. He gave me a rhythm to eat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do you think sports actually has helped you outgrow the shyness?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. It has definitely forced me out of my comfort zone in being shy. So in my sport, you have to perform, and sometimes you have to perform alone. So you're in the ring alone, spotlight on you, and you really have to just be, or try to be confident in yourself to actually perform and impress judges and audiences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe let's give a picture to those who are not too sure of the sport that you do. Taekwondo, people think it's martial arts, there's usually fighting involved. But Pumse, for those who are listening, can you paint a visual so they can understand what exactly is a sport? Before I get to my next question.
Sure. So most people think that Taekwondo is the combat side, which is called kyorugi. It's in Korean terms, the sport is a Korean martial art. The combat side is kyorugi. The performing arts martial arts side is called Pumse. So in Pumse is divided into authorized Pumse. So authorized Pumse is generally the routines that you learn for your examinations, your gradings, your belt tests. Everyone who does Taekwondo, WTF, our system, WT, sorry, but back then it was called WTF. Would know the routines that we're doing. Everything is standardized. But now we've also branched out, WT has branched out into freestyle Pumse, where you get to choreograph your own routines to music. And that involves very highly skilled techniques that involves gymnastics. The demonstration side of Taekwondo, where you have to fly, kick, spin, and then it also involves sparring techniques. Yeah, so you have to, based on those elements, there are 5 elements, you have to create a routine out of it with music.
Okay.
Yeah.
The routine that's Taegyo, right? Is that what it's called?
That is the standardized routines called Taekwondo, yes.
Okay, I remember
Yeah.
that only because I was also thrown into Taekwondo when I was younger. So I remember that you have to go left, right, and the kicks and all that.
Right, yes, yes.
But now you choreograph it to your own style and feel.
You can do that. So there's 2 different events. So people can pick and choose which ones they want to go to, except for multi-sport games. Sometimes in multi-sport games that are big, like Asian Games or Universiade, you have to learn both. But otherwise, general championships, you can pick and choose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So usually, would you do it alone or you'll be doing it with a partner? How does it usually work when you are performing?
So in Pumse, there are a lot of events. There are individual events, male, female. There are mixed pair events where the male and female comes together and work together. Whether or not they perform together in authorized in the standardized routines or they perform in freestyle, they can pick and choose. And then there is also team events. So it's either teams of the same gender, 3 people, male or female, or in freestyle, there is mixed gender teams. So there are 5 members in total. 6 now, sorry. 6 members in total, but 5 will get to perform. The 6th one is just a sub.
Okay. So there's also
but within
a sub there, right?
but within the team, it has to be a mixed team.
Okay.
So that means at least 3 guys and 2 girls, or 3 girls and 2 guys.
Which one do you prefer?
It really depends, actually. It really depends. I enjoy both team and individual events. Both are unique in itself and the skills that you have to showcase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into another portion about sports because I also found out that you played softball competitively.
Yes.
So if you had chosen that path instead, how different do you think your life would be today?
So in softball, that was back in high school. I was active in both softball and taekwondo, but I was a lot better in softball. I represented KL for
So then,
softball.
where
What happened in between,
yeah, what happened in
right?
between?
I still picked taekwondo because I loved the movements in taekwondo. Softball I love as well, but at that time in Malaysia, I think it was really hard because the base for softball was in Penang.
Oh, so you have to travel.
You would have to travel if you want to take it seriously. Yeah, and
okay.
my high school teacher was not happy that I dropped softball and took up taekwondo instead because the results were very different.
Oh my.
Yeah, I
Were
was
you like
achieving a lot better in
Were
softball.
you like a pitcher, the catcher, I forgot all the, yeah. Which one were you?
I was a shortstop. So the one in the middle, one of the crucial spots in softball, one of the crucial ones, yes. And
Okay.
I was very known for batting pretty far.
Oh,
Hitting balls pretty far. Yeah,
Okay.
so they wanted me to continue.
So really, what do you think would have happened if you did continue with softball?
I think in Malaysia, softball isn't so known. It isn't so popular. So it would have been tough. I would have probably still continued in the sport. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Okay.
But within KL, it's hard to maintain the sport
Okay.
of softball here competitively.
So would you say that if it was a bit more popular and more
Yeah,
well-known?
I could have continued maybe if it was a bit more popular if there is a base in KL. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Maybe. I wouldn't
Well, who
know.
knows? Maybe like other than Taekwondo Pumse,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe you could venture into it. We don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
I still miss the sport, to be honest. I've been searching online for clubs.
Oh, you're itching to play.
I'm itching to carry the bat again and like hit.
Do you think you can still hit far?
I think with some practice, it might be possible.
When was the
yeah.
last time you held a bat?
High school.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, just roughly, like how many years ago is that?
I'm 31 now. I'm not shy about that. That I think 17 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now coming to the next portion of your life, what's one thing that Pumse has taught you about yourself that you wouldn't have learned anywhere else?
Confidence and drive. Confidence and grit, more like. Yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit more? Like how did that come into the picture?
I think my grit or my experience in the sport, the hardships, that drove me to be a bit more confident in myself because I think the sport being so hard actually pushed me to be out of my comfort zone, try to fight for sports and, medals and all that. So naturally, I was not so afraid to display my true self a little bit more. So that drove me to be a little bit more confident in myself, my identity.
Would you say that Taekwondo and Pumse have merged to become your identity? Like, is that how you kept seeing yourself?
I think when I was an athlete, yes, very much, yes, because essentially we've been doing the sport for like 7 days a week.
Right. 7 days a week?
Yes.
No
yeah,
off
yeah.
days?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it
That's a
was
lot
tough.
of practice. How many
It's a lot
hours
of
do you
practice.
practice in a day?
Depending on the phase, we've tried 8 hours before.
8
If you're
hours in
injured,
one
there's
day.
definitely more because you have to add in the rehab.
Oh.
Yeah. But I didn't mind that because I think my mindset and my work ethics doesn't mind it. I know I need to do it, so I don't mind going through that process of the 7 days a week and all that. Yeah.
Right. 8 hours. That's pretty much like
On some
full-time
days.
job already.
Yeah.
How did you manage the psychology part while you were training?
My degree.
Yeah, your degree.
It's tough, yes. Less sleep, constant work, constant research. I think I remember, this is definitely true. I remember in 2018 when there was the Asian Games, the World Championships, the Asian Championships as well. I was just constantly doing my thesis on the plane. Yeah.
Wow, that stress of between remembering and
Yes.
also getting yourself prepped and also doing your
Correct.
thesis. Okay,
Yes.
we'll touch on that in a short while.
Yeah,
Get to
sure.
that. But I want to ask, like, when you made history winning Malaysia's first gold in individual Pumse at the SEA Games, did that moment change the way you saw yourself?
I think it did a little bit in a sense where I feel that I had more responsibility.
Elaborate, please.
Yeah, so more responsibility in seeing how many kids have DM'd me on Instagram and said that they want to take up the sport even more. So
Oh.
yeah. It was really there were a lot of heartfelt messages, and that made me realize that my win at the SEA Games was more than just me winning. It's everybody winning at the same time. And I think the funny part about the 2017 SEA Games, and I remember this very, very clearly. Usually people would cry when they win a gold medal in a very, very big multi-sport game. You know, home ground, family, friends are there, everyone's there, you know, officials are there as well. And people tend to cry at winning medals, but I don't cry. And I remember my coach actually coming up to me and he's like, "Aren't you gonna cry?" I'm like, "No,
What kind of
just
just
it's relief." Yeah. It's just a relief for me. So medal wins, yes, I'm very proud of it. But I think what hit me the most was more of how other people felt about the gold medal that I won. It felt more like it was for them rather than for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So you felt like you're doing it for them,
Yes.
but
After that.
okay, but the satisfaction for you, there was that satisfaction too?
Yeah, definitely. The satisfaction comes from knowing that other people appreciate it and inspires them to actually carry on in the sport, especially when it's a sport that is like, generally people think of Taekwondo and then they think about Pumse and it's just like boring. So, you know, when you hear that and you love the sport so much, it's just like, it's a bit of a bummer that they don't like it, but yeah, it's normal.
Did that ever make you feel like, oh, why did I pick this sport? Because like you just said that some people think of it as boring or it's not that widely popular.
Right.
Did it ever demotivate you?
It didn't demotivate me. I wouldn't say demotivate, just kind of like, they still don't know about it yet.
Okay, so it's in the process of growing. I like that thought process.
Yeah.
How did you make yourself believe that believe like it's still new for them? It will happen over time.
What was that thought process? I think my teammates and I had a laugh about it because we were kind of like the pioneers in the sport, right? And I remember going to, when we first got endorsed by the government in 2015, when we officially became national athletes, because prior to that we weren't really national athletes. There wasn't a national team. So when we were the first ones to become the national team for Malaysia, I remember going to the counter in the Sports Institute where we were doing our like medical checkups and all of that, and then we just told them that we're in Pumse, and then the counter lady was like, "What is that?"
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
We had a laugh about it, you know. It's like, oh, okay, it's not known yet, so like we'll make sure that it'll get known later on.
Yes, the word is make sure
Yes.
that people are aware of this.
Yeah, but we had a good laugh about it. It wasn't really demotivating. It was just kind of like people don't know about it yet.
Okay. Would
Yeah,
you say
but
it has grown now a whole lot more?
Yeah, a whole lot more. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the challenges and emotions that you went through. What's one loss that hurt more than any win?
2019 SEA Games. I didn't win that year.
Okay, what happened that year?
So I had a very good winning streak 2017, 2018. So I was kind of projected to win for 2019 SEA Games. So in Pumse, we have to do 2 routines in a single round. So the first routine, I thought I did okay, but the marks that I've gotten, I think, weren't so satisfactory to me. So I allowed that to bring me down. And within the 2 routines, you have like a 20-second, 30-second break around that. Within that 20 to 30 seconds, I couldn't recover in time from the shock.
Okay.
So my second routine was just like downhill.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so I went from an okay rank to like down. Yeah, so that was a big hit for me because I think I should have prepared myself enough to be able to recover from that setback within 20 or 30 seconds, because 20 or 30 seconds to recover back is quite hard.
Yeah, that's like a breath.
You have to, it's like a breath. Like your coach is talking to you, you know, you have to try and figure things out. Realistically, I think even though they gave us 20 or 30 seconds, you have like 10 seconds to like gather yourself in time before you enter for the second routine. So I think I didn't manage to prepare myself enough for that. But, you know, looking back, I think that was a good lesson for me, because then I could teach it to my students, which I've already had. Yeah, so it's a good lesson for me. I was able to figure that out later on, and then still continue with my athletic career. After that incident, I was able to recover back, and I knew exactly what to do.
With what you know in psychology, could you figure out a tool that you could use to actually help you for those 20, 30 seconds? What would be a tool that, if say anyone's listening, they get in the same kind of situation, not necessarily like yours, but say we have to think real quickly.
Yeah. I think for me, the quickest would be self-talk. Just reframing and reassuring myself. That would be the quickest way to go. Yeah, just the reframing part would be very important.
Okay, so what would you say to yourself?
I would say I could still recover back for the second routine. The first routine is something that has gone past already. The second routine is where I can recover back. Yeah.
Okay.
But within that time in 2019, I think I was too shocked to think of anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's a moment you had to pick yourself back up when no one else was watching?
Whenever I'm injured.
Okay, let's talk about the injury. I know you have spoken about this injury. I've heard about it, and it was a really tough one.
Yeah.
Paint the picture. What happened during your injury? What was your thought process? Because I'm always weirdly fascinated by how people get so resilient from an injury. Because I can only imagine when your body is not working the way you want it to.
Right. Whenever you're injured, typically you have to work on yourself. You have to work with your rehab therapist. Sometimes necessarily you have to be bedridden, you can't walk. So that's where you are actually alone.
What was the injury you had?
I had two injuries where I had to be bedridden. One was 2018 in February. This was the year of like Asian Games and Asian Championships and World Championships. I completely tore, I think, 2 or 3 ligaments in my ankle, the very important ones, completely torn, and I had a fracture. And also a partial tear somewhere on the side of my ankle.
Sounds like
just
a lot of tears.
both sides of my ankles.
Gosh.
Torn.
Okay.
Yeah, so that caused me to be bedridden for a bit. And then I had a hip surgery in 2020 during COVID. That one caused me to be bedridden for about 6 weeks on crutches.
My gosh. When you say bedridden, like you are literally on the bed.
On the bed most of the
24/7?
time.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Only if I need to shower or I need to go to the toilet, then I will just get my crutches or my walking frame.
Okay.
Yeah. To the toilet and then back.
What is the thought process? Because you said the first one was how long was you were bedridden for?
Don't exactly remember, but a few weeks because I had to be on crutches. The injury was quite bad.
So let's talk about the hip one. That was 6 weeks.
Yep.
That's close to 2 months.
Yes.
1.5 months, pretty much. So what's your thought process of like, okay, saying I can do this, I can get myself back up, even though right now I can only move from the bed to the toilet mostly.
Right.
What was your thought process?
My thought process, I think because so my surgery was in 2020. Before 2020, I already had like so many injuries. So I kind of knew what to do and how to set my mind and set little goals for myself. Okay. The first thing I thought about was to just lift my leg. So mini goals like that, lift my leg, lift a little bit higher, touch the floor. Okay. Walk without a walking frame, transition into crutches, get rid of the crutches, like graduate from the crutches. Setting those mini goals really helped a lot because I was proud of those goals. Bonus motivation for me is to actually try and, how should I frame this? Work against my doctor's estimated time. Okay. So recover quicker than what my doctor estimated was a huge motivation for me because to me, it felt like a little race. Okay. And I was like competing against my doctor. You were gamifying your I was gamifying my rehab. I love it. Okay. Yeah, like small goals. Like if I can just like beat my doctor's time, I'm like, oh, great. Okay. Yeah. So that's 2 tools that I took from there. One was where you set mini goals. Yeah. Touching the floor. Yes. Touching your toes. Yes. And then the second one was making it like a race for yourself against the doctor. Yeah, correct. Okay. Because I've done it before with my ankle injury for Asian Games. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let me use it again for my surgery. Yeah. And is there one more tool?
Or would you say those were the most powerful tools that was enough to actually get you going?
Yes, to get me going, to get me disciplined, hyped up with my recovery, yes, definitely. But I've definitely used tools of journaling or CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Those were the things that I've learned from my therapist or from my degree. I found that helpful in times where it's most stressful. So in dealing with injuries, usually you're alone. That's where your mind kind of just plays around.
I can just imagine.
Like you start doubting yourself.
What did they say? That an idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yes, correct. That's where everything floats around in your mind.
Yeah.
And whatever lands.
Yeah.
And usually that's negative thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you kick those thoughts out?
Journaling and CBT mostly. And then trying to gamify everything. Just trying to find my way to be competitive with like time, my doctor, myself. Yeah.
So journaling, you just write down whatever it is. Do you just have verbal diary, just put it onto a paper?
Yes, I brain vomit.
Okay. And then what's the CBT you were saying?
Yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy. So that is a little bit more structured compared to brain vomit journaling. In journaling, when we quote unquote brain vomit, it's actually called a stream of consciousness. It's a technique where you just, without judgment, just write out all your emotions, your thoughts, what you've done, your actions, and then reevaluate later. And then hopefully you come up with a solution. Or if you don't come up with it, you just leave it there and then just close the book and just go.
So how would you do that how would you use CBT in your recovery?
I would use it when I'm specifically in a stressful situation, if I'm anxious about a certain thing, whether or not I can, for example, get back into the sport.
Yeah.
If that makes me anxious, I will have to write down in columns, because the thing about CBT is that there is structure. There's columns and prompts for you to fill in. And you actually have to be in like a slightly stressful situation to be able to actually fill it in, because you have to rate your emotion. And then you have to come up with reasonings or evaluations to counter negative thoughts and evaluate your behavior, evaluate and rate yourself again after all that.
Do you do this in talks? Like, do you do CBT talks?
Recently at corporate trainings, I've brought it up. And some employees have already tried using it and they found it helpful. Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk more about that off the camera, because I want to know. I mean, I would love for the audience to also know.
Yeah.
Like, how can they use it? So, what kind of columns do I put for myself?
At the moment, from what I remember, the first table is where you put in the situation that you're in, who you're with, what you were doing, and all of that. Try to ground you in place first. And then it will ask, like, what happened? And then after that, you have to rate yourself. And then what caused you to think this way? What is the evidence that caused you to think this way? And then after that, you have to come up with alternatives to counter that negative thought and then rate yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're being like a mind detective of your self.
Yes. In doing journaling or CBT, it's very important to be able to kind of pull yourself out of yourself. Just see yourself in third person and write down. Yeah,
That's
that
a great tool.
Yeah.
So, okay, like with your stressful situation, your injury specifically, but I think anyone can also use it as a tool. So I'm going to break it down to like, number one was the mini goal setting. Number two is gamifying, where you made it a race between yourself and your doctor.
Doctor or myself, yes.
Yeah. And then the third was journaling.
Yes.
That's the brain vomit one. And number four was CBT, cognitive behavior therapy.
Yes.
Where that's your detective part.
Correct.
Very nice. So, okay, these four tools I think is so helpful. Even like, I think if I were to use it, when this little one pops, I can only imagine what kind of stress. I'll be like, yes, this happened. And how can I find a solution? Great. So now let's talk about, that was your injury and your time as an athlete. So when did you retire?
I retired 2021.
Did you already know that you were going to retire at that age, or is it because of injury?
It was because of my hip surgery, actually. So what happened during my hip surgery is that I was okay. And then I found that after the surgery, there was a bone sticking out still. There's like a bone growth. If I were to continue in the sport, I have to go for another surgery. So automatically, and then I'm 27 at the time. So automatically, it's kind of just like a no-brainer. Gut feeling was telling me like, I think this is it.
Oh, shucks. How did that moment feel for you?
I felt sad for a bit. I mean, it's bittersweet, right? Gone through so much hardship, and then you start thinking back. It's like, oh, you've gone through so much hardship, and but there's so many sweet memories, and there's always a time and place to let it go. And that was the time and place to actually let it go. Like, my gut already told me that, yeah.
Did you cry at this point or no?
I did a little bit.
Okay.
To my boyfriend, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember, because now you've already said, okay, that this is it. Do you remember the first time you introduced yourself saying, I'm not a national athlete anymore? I
remember, yes. But this is only because I had to introduce myself to new clients as a personal trainer. So I introduced myself as a personal trainer, not as a national athlete, because they don't see me that way. They don't know me.
Okay.
They're just general clients who are not in sports. Some of them were seniors, some of them kids. So they don't know me as a sports person. They only see me as a gym coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say was the hardest part from going national athlete to where you are right now?
The hardest part, I think it's just letting go of that identity of being an athlete.
Did you find yourself confused at any point? Or you had already pre-planned what kind of identity you wanted?
Because I know I had an attachment towards my athletic identity, I knew how to prepare, how to transition out of that. So I wouldn't say that it was like a huge transition. I kind of just hyped myself to, transition into being a coach. And now my identity is being a coach rather than an athlete. Yeah.
Okay. If you could sit down with another national athlete or anyone who's going through the same struggles of transition, what would be the first thing you would say to them?
I think I would tell them to be excited about the transition, because I think that is where they gain freedom, different kinds of freedom, to be honest, to be able to explore a little bit more, not be so committed to only one thing. Because when it comes to national athletes, I would say maybe it's 50-50. I used to be an athlete who was very obsessed with the sport. And I wouldn't say it consumed me, but I was very passionate about it. But with so much passion, I wasn't able to explore as much. Yeah.
So that's why you say that there's newfound freedom.
Yes, there's newfound freedom to actually take their time to explore on what they really, really want to do, maybe even outside of sports. Because when it comes to national athletes as well, I think a lot of people, when you're close to a retirement stage and people ask you, when are you going to retire and what are you going to do next? Typically the answer will be coach.
Yeah.
But whether or not they are actually passionate about it is another thing.
Did it ever annoy you when people were like, what are you going to do? That question.
No, it never really annoyed me. Yeah, because it prompted me to think whether or not I really wanted to be a coach, because I was, at this point in time, I was a bit reluctant to become a coach. Because my background was academic. If I were to retire, do I go back to academics?
Right.
Yeah, so I actually did consider taking masters in counseling, or try and find a university that offered sports psychology so that I can still work in sports and I can still be in academics.
Okay.
But I dropped that option because my gut feeling was telling me to actually just go ahead and work with people.
Which is more in the sports rather than going into like full-on workforce?
Full-on workforce, but just working with people, working with movement techniques. I think that brought me a lot more joy.
Okay.
Rather than pursuing like psychology, sitting in a desk kind of job.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to ask you my final question, which I've asked most of my interviewees. Which scares you more? Would it be failure or success?
Bit of both, to be honest.
Okay. But if you were to sway to one side, which one is?
As in right now.
Okay, let's go with right now. Which would you pick?
Right now. I think I will fear failure.
Okay, why is that?
I like to do things properly. Let's just put it that way.
You're a perfectionist.
Yeah. Not really a perfectionist. I don't mind failure. But when I fail, I think I would feel I'll be taken aback by the failure.
Okay.
But I know that even though I'm taken aback by it, I can reframe and actually just like, okay, it's okay, Phil, just learn from the mistakes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now that you have transitioned out, where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram generally. So my handle is Sara Yap KW. That's the best place to find me at the moment.
To reach out to you like,
Yes.
for anything at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time, and I will totally take back the one that you mentioned, the 4 tools.
Yes.
For just getting your mind right in any kind of situation. I'm still going to use it. I hope anyone else who's listening, I'm just going to recap it again. Number 1, mini goals. Number 2, gamify your, this is just for injury's sake, but I think you can gamify it in any
Your
way.
challenges.
Make it like a race between you and whoever or whatever kind of situation you're in.
Yes.
3 is the brain vomit.
Yeah, the brain vomit, yes.
And 4 was the cognitive behavior therapy, right?
Yes.
Okay. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for joining me, and big thank you to Sara for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
I wish you all the best in
Thank
every
you.
single transition that's going to happen for the rest of the next 10 years or more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sara.
Thank you.
And we'll be back again for the next pursuit of progress.